Darren Casey. Darren Casey. Goes all right, Darren Casey.
Hi, Tony. How you going?
I'm doing well, Darren. It's always great to have you on.
Thank you. It was pretty snappy little intro you got there. You seem perky.
Well, I've just had a coffee.
Ah, yeah, that'll do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like coffee.
Coffee's great.
I love the smell of it, and I like doing it. Let's do coffee.
Yeah, let's do... hang on, you do coffee, but you take exercise. Why do we not take coffee and do exercise?
I don't take exercise.
People
Where
do.
Are you getting that from?
It's an old-fashioned way of saying get some exercise. You take some exercise. Your doctor, 40 years ago might say to you, I suggest you take some exercise. And then draw a bath.
If I went to a doctor that talked like that, I'd pick up that plastic kidney or whatever he had on his desk, or that spinal column, that rib bone or whatever he had on his desk, and brandish it at him and say, hey, shut up with your funny voice.
All right. Okay.
Doc.
Maybe the doc doesn't speak like that.
Hey, look, last week I mentioned Madonna, and your eyeballs went into the back of your head.
Yeah.
You became a seething madman.
Yeah.
You weren't happy even just hearing the mention, and the pure hatred came out in you.
I'm not a fan.
No, and I figured she was probably, rattling out all those hits when you were going through your sort of coming through your youth, and then into that dark sort of indie period that you went through.
Yes.
So you would have shunned all of that.
Yes, I would have cocked an eye her way dismissively. It's because I think she herself is a really decrepit person morally.
Okay. All right. So a couple of questions. Firstly, how does plastic surgery work? Oh, well, I haven't had it. I don't think you've had it. But are you awake? Is it like getting a haircut? Do you sit there while they're just doing it, and then they show you a mirror around the back and all that? You go, oh yeah, that's good, or a bit more. Or is it like in those movies, those horror movies, where it's all your head's wrapped like a mummy, and then they do that big unravel sort of thing, and then hand you a little hand mirror, and then you look at it and go, Mother of God!
And they make sure they're out of the room.
Yeah, they slide, they unravel all this stuff, and then slide you a mirror. I always thought it was funny when you're getting an X-ray at the dentist. They go, "Now this is perfectly harmless. We're just going to take an X-ray," and the guy's wearing a leather. Well, they used to. I don't know if they still do. They wear this leather smock.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. It's about 4 inches thick.
Oh, I love that.
It's like lead.
Yeah.
And then they run halfway down the corridor and hide behind a pot plant and click a button telling you, no, this is fine, not much radiation here. No, exactly. And you see them scuttling way down the other end of the building. Hold still.
Yeah.
So what's the deal with plastic surgery? Do you know? Are you unconscious? You just wake up and that's it? Or do you get to say, well, hang on, a bit more of that, or my lips are pretty fat? Or...
Yeah, I don't know. All that I know is that with Madonna, they clearly got the work experience kid in who's sight impaired and I used to work as a panel beater. Because that's the only way you could explain how she has gone from a gorgeous, when she first broke, she was gorgeous.
Yeah, well, she was a pretty young pop star. Yeah.
And she to me would have had the sort of face that would age beautifully, but no, she's decided not to go with that. And she looks like she I don't know, relaxes by sticking her head into a beehive and taking what comes.
I heard a good line, a good description of someone who was a really hard guy, And the line goes, the softest part of his body was his teeth.
That's magnificent.
That's a ripper.
Yeah.
Anyway, so when Madonna was, when you were listening to music, what did you listen to through your 20s?
Through my 20s, it was all, look.
'Cause it's pretty important. It's all music's very important then, and teens obviously. You're into the Smiths and stuff like that,
and Joy Division and a lot of, kind of independent or alternative stuff. I wouldn't listen to much mainstream stuff. That was poo-pooed. And
you went to parties and all that was played, and everyone else had similar interests.
Oh, no, not really. I didn't. No. Not a lot of people that I mixed with listened to the same music as me. Oh, a few did, but it was, but generally speaking, within my group of friends, no.
So you just brooded on your own?
Yeah. That's
in that shed with your aeroplane?
Like Heathcliff. That's what I was like.
Who's Heathcliff?
Heathcliff from, Wuthering Heights. I was this, this stormy, impenetrable presence who would just brood angrily with knitted brow.
So you didn't go through a greasy 50s slicked up stage?
No.
You didn't go through that? Because you're meant to, when you're a young person, you got to go through different stages. I went through a medieval period where I was listening to a lot of lute, and I wore green tights and had terrible hair, terrible fringe, and I used to prance listening to lutes and lyres. Is that how it's pronounced?
Yep. But
with a shocking haircut, frolicking through a forest, and when I smiled, I kept my lips close together. That's how I smiled, with a shocking haircut.
And would you have debates about whether or not the harpsichord was kind of... those city people listening to harpsichords in their buckled shoes with their wigs. Powdered wigs, Darren, come on.
Powdered wigs with fake dots on their face. Hated all of that. I think I saw you once. You were going through a one shoulder strap overalls kind of Zydeco stage.
Yes, that
true. Was you, wasn't it?
No, it was more Dexy's Midnight Runners. Yeah, it was kind of, It was,
were they the worst? They were the worst dressed band.
They were, true. They had some good songs. So they had one good song, Gino.
Oh, they had some great stuff. Yeah. They had an album, the one that... Searching for the Young Soul Rebels. That was a fabulous album.
Yeah, terrific.
And I don't think that made them really famous. And then Eileen came out. But the film clip for Eileen, they just all look like they need a wash. They're all just standing around the streets in cut-off denim.
Yeah.
Overalls with nothing underneath. And all unshaven. And they kind of look like they all smelt.
Yeah. And none of them were embarrassed about what they were wearing.
No, and they all had it on. They said, let's go for this look.
Yeah.
Rotten old denim, halfway down the shin, bib with no shirt.
Oh, it could have been worse. It could have been early Spandau Ballet. If you want to have a look at them and the new romantic look from the early 80s. Yeah, that wasn't good.
But that was all blitz.
Yeah.
Things, little bits of, like the piece of material tied around your thigh and stuff like that.
Yeah. No. Give me the harpsichord look any day.
Crazy stuff. All right. So, did you know that Ronald McDonald is being phased out?
I did not know that.
Well, call yourself a burger eater. Yes. They're phasing him out.
Why are they doing that?
Well, partly because it was brought about by there was a creepy clown thing a few years back that I vaguely recall and then found out a bit more about this week, that people were dressing as clowns and being a bit creepy, like jumping out at people. And
what? And they were getting dressed as Ronald McDonald?
Well, they were wearing clown outfits. And,
Okay.
it's like kids might think it's funny, like teenagers might put on a really creepy clown outfit and frighten and jump out in front of some kids in a park and stuff like this.
Ugh.
And they all thought it was funny, but it sort of caught on, I guess, because we have an internet.
Yeah.
And it sort of led to McDonald's resting Ronald.
Oh, he's being rested, which means he'll come back at some point. But we all know when you use that word resting that he's as good as being buried in a shallow grave in a forest somewhere.
Yeah, well, he doesn't do much at all. And because they used to have a whole family of...
They did too, Hamburglar.
There was Hamburglar, but there was also this guy called Big Mac.
Oh, there was
who
too.
had a hamburger for a head.
Yep.
That always amazed me.
Yeah.
Hamburger for a head. Imagine dating that guy. He's all right. I love him, Dad. Kid's got a hamburger for a head. How do you reconcile that?
Yeah, I wouldn't want my daughter dating somebody who had a hamburger for a head. I'm going to be honest with you there, Darren.
Mm. All right, well, another thing that makes you seethe with anger, and I've been ignoring them.
Yeah.
But Meghan and Harry.
Boy, oh boy. It's funny you mentioned that because yesterday I sat down with the daughter that I just mentioned and we watched that episode. And my God, they did not miss. It is magnificent.
Yeah, well, I've seen bits of it.
Oh, it's great.
Yes, and it was in a report I was watching that popularity polls and all that, and all the wheels might be falling off in America.
Yeah, yeah.
And one person said, well, I've read that book from front to back, and they are a troubled couple.
Troubled? What does that
and
mean?
And the way this woman said it, I thought maybe they're both just going to go mental.
At each other, because they'll have no friends. It'll be them in a very large mansion, arguing in every one of its 326 rooms.
Like in The Shining.
Yes. Oh.
And here's Harry putting an axe through a door. And it's just them two in this enormous building. Here's Harry. Crazy stuff.
Yeah, it is. But if you haven't seen it, can I please just urge you to watch it because their characterization of Meghan is magnificent.
Well, I saw bits of it, yeah.
Yeah.
And I love the way they always use their own voices. So everybody sounds like the same guy.
Yeah.
Which is a great thing.
No, look, it's, yeah.
What else do you want to talk about?
I don't know. How about this weather? How about this weather we're having, Darren?
Yeah, it's incredible.
Wow.
What weather? You're in Melbourne.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Okay. Well, it's actually.
Has it been bad?
No, it hasn't. It's been lovely. It's been lovely. So there's nothing to report, Darren. Nothing at all.
Okay. Well, then let's talk about. Well, we like to discuss travel. I think we've covered you in America. Where else have you been?
Well, I've done Bali. I've done Europe.
Bali.
Yeah, done Europe. The Philippines. I've never told you about the Philippines,
have
I?
Europe? What's that? Sorry.
I've never told you about our 2-day or 3-day stopover in the Philippines in 1984.
No, you've never talked about the Philippines.
No.
I bring it up and you go all weird.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, what about Philippines?
I suddenly changed the topic and start talking about my persistent flatulence instead. Yeah.
What happened in the Philippines?
Well, we flew there when we re-emigrated to Ireland in 1984. We stopped over. We flew Philippines Airlines. Mum got the cheapest possible airfares, so we flew on a DC-10, clapped out Philippines DC-10, Series 30 for anybody who really wants to know. And we arrived in Manila.
And you knew all this when you were a kid?
I did, yes, because it had the extra landing gear in between the main landing gears on the centre line of the fuselage. And
of course it did.
And we arrived a year to the day after Aquino had been shot. If you remember him, he was the opposition leader who was in exile. And President Marcos said, all right, I'll hold elections. And then so he rings up this Aquino guy and goes, look, I may be a brutal thug, but I'm a man of my word. Come back to the Philippines and let's have a free and fair election.
Oh, no, I vaguely remember this. Yeah.
Yeah, so Aquino in 1983 arrives back at the airport. There's thousands of people there to see him. They're all really excited. He walks down the steps of the aircraft, and blow me down if somebody just doesn't walk up behind him with a gun and shoots him dead. And
that's terrible.
So then there was all sorts of ructions and riots and all that sort of stuff. Anyway, we arrived a year after that. I'd like to think in a gesture that helped calm the nation. But on the way to the airport, we just saw burning tyres everywhere, and the people were restive. There was, there was a certain frisson in the air. And we stayed at a really crummy hotel, like really crummy, that had never seen white people before. They didn't know what to do with us. Everyone was embarrassed. They were thinking, hang on, you guys are supposed to be kind of a little bit further up the totem pole than us. What are you doing here, kind of thing.
Did they have food service, room service?
No, the room was like a dormitory and stinking hot. There was a church next door. Mum gate crashed the wedding and got greasies the whole time. And the place was chaotic. It was chaotic but exciting.
Right.
Yeah.
Cheap motel.
Yeah. There's more to it than that, but I'll tell you another time.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I was in Taco Bell's the other day. This isn't really, well, I guess it's a bit travel. It mentions another country, but I was in Taco Bell's and they're not the same. Do you ever have much to do with Taco Bell?
No, I thought they were relatively new in Australia. I know they're huge in America.
No, they've been around for a while. I remember them from 20-odd years ago, but it was a Mexican experience.
Oh yeah.
But now it's just you go in and they've changed all their branding and everything's purple, and you just press buttons and it doesn't seem like a very Mexican experience at all. I remember the old days. There were usually chickens scuttling about as you walked in.
Yeah.
A few chickens underfoot, maybe a donkey
with
a blanket on it, a guy in baggy jeans squinting at you, and I think I got in a shootout for some fajitas. It was just more Mexican. It's just not... It doesn't seem very Mexican anymore.
Okay. I'm so sorry, Darren, that it's not authentic enough for you.
Yeah, no, you just go in and press a few buttons and you get a taco.
Right. It's not
by a kid
doesn't have a mustache or a poncho.
Not in sight, just a sort of a pimply kid. His head looks like a quesadilla or something. Melted cheese.
That's not what you pay for.
No, it's crazy stuff. Look, I was watching a clip of some elephants, and it reminded me of a fun thing that I learnt about elephants.
Yeah.
You might see them ripping up a tree, like ripping up whole trees.
Yeah.
And they do it for two reasons. One is either they want to eat the juicy leaves that are at the top.
Yeah.
So they'll sort of really put the shoulder and the trunk into it and rip a tree out of the ground. But the bulls will also do it if they've been knocked back for sex by one of the females.
Right.
They'll go off and rip a few trees out because they're angry.
Yeah.
Imagine if we did stuff like that. And come in, you go on a date and she goes, well, thanks very much, that's very nice.
Yeah.
And you get a peck on the cheek.
Yeah.
And she goes in and she hears all this grunting and heaving out in the front yard, and there's some guy sort of trying to get a gum tree out of the ground or something. Or you go out in the morning and there's a guy, she tells her girlfriend, a whole street's been ripped up. I went on a date with a guy from the Lands Council. and he just wasn't my type. That guy's ripped up everything. Like he's brought in machinery and stuff the next day. We could have been something.
Yeah.
You and me. Yeah.
He's gone clear felling.
I think I'm out of time.
All right, Darren. On that note, thank you so much, and I will speak to you in a week or two here in Australia.
I can't wait already.
Oh, that's the spirit. That's exactly what I want to hear, Darren. That's wonderful.
All right, well, good on you. Thank you, and I'll see you next week.
That is the ever delightful and magnificently unique Darren Casey on Australia Overnight.